Hi everyone, Britt Simon here. Hope everyone is well. I thought I'd jump online, take a few questions. So if any of you have any DV lottery questions, be more than happy to hear them. Let me just from the beginning post a link, a couple of links actually. I want you to have a look if you can at this spreadsheet, which is posted by a very smart guy, No. Narek. It doesn't like going to Facebook, but anyway, you should be able to see that link, I think, under the YouTube in the YouTube chat. And also, as we begin this, let's just also remind everybody of the data here at Zarthisius's site, which is here for any of you that don't have that. Now, let me just explain why I think that spreadsheet is a good spreadsheet for you to have a look at. Let me open it here. I think I've got my copy. I want to show the copy. Oh, not that one. Sorry, let me just find this. Not soda pricing. Yeah, this one. Okay. Where are we? Not that. Not that. Where are you? Not that. And I would rather have this one. Not the yearbook. Not that one. I'll just click the link that I just put in there. That would be smarter. Let me just go to the link directly. Here we go. Here we go, and I'll show you this. I'll show you this spreadsheet. It's quite useful spreadsheet, which you should be looking at and checking if you want to understand embassy capacity or where they've got to. There's no need to ask me. You can just look at this link. So I've put the link under the YouTube, or rather in the YouTube chat. Right now, let me show you this this spreadsheet, because this uses the Zarthisius's data and plots the amount of cases per 1,000. So it's really useful stuff. So let me just present my screen. Entire screen, that one. Yes, right. And I'll get to your questions in a moment, but I just want to show you this. All right, so I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, you're going to have a look at this later yourselves, obviously, because there's a lot of data there. But basically, for any particular embassy, you can look at the consulate that you want to investigate, and you can see the number of cases per 1,000. So let me just explain what this means. I'll take Accra as an example, which is column I and J. So in column I, you can see that between the case number 1 and 1,000, Accra have scheduled 24 cases, right? Between 1,000 and 2,000, 1,001 and 2,000, they've scheduled 13 cases. Between 2,000 and 3,000, 25 cases. So this is the number of cases per 1,000, and you can average that column out to understand how many cases per 1,000 a particular embassy has. We know that Accra has scheduled 301 cases, and all 301 of their cases are here. One of those cases, by the way, wasn't scheduled by Accra directly. It was moved from another consulate. But you can see where they've got to in terms of their processing. So they issued 300 2NLs in the month of January, which are for March interviews. They're working at around about, you can sort of just look at that column and say, yeah, it's around about 20 per 1,000, roughly. And you can see that they got to sort of 17,000 to 18,000. They're in that range between 17 and 18,000. Once you know their capacity, how many they take per month. Let's say they take 100 cases per month. If they took 100 cases in the next month, they took 300 this month. If they took 100 next month, and they've got 20 per 1,000, then they would move by 5,000 numbers. They would go from 17,000 to 18,000. In that range, they would move to 22 to 23,000 with 100 cases of capacity, right? So we'd like to see them get, let's say, to 200 cases in capacity. And if they did that, they would be able to move 10 10,000, which is above the current visa bulletin. And if you use a little bit of noggin power, if you use some of the smarticle particles up in here, you can kind of make a pretty good estimate of where that embassy would like to be in terms of the next visa bulletin, right? Where that embassy would like to be, if you can sort of predict their capacity. Now, we don't get told their capacity automatically, but after a while, after you've looked at this data for a couple of months and you've studied this data, we'll begin to see patterns emerging so that we can see what the capacity was, on a monthly basis. We know, for example, Accra last year was taking between 20 and 30 cases on a typical month, which was clearly not enough. Are they going to do hundreds next month? We don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. So you can see for any embassy, you can see in the data here, it's kind of interesting. You can see that the data shows us where the embassies are, whether they've got any backlog or not. So, for example, if we look at Addis, Addis has scheduled cases up to 23,000. You can see for the African region there how many cases they have, and we know how many cases they've scheduled. Is that total number of cases? So again, you can make predictions about how far they could get to and what sort of capacity they need to get to your number. That's the point of why I'm saying this. And you can also see which embassies are backlogged. So we can see that Algeria, for example, is not backlogged at all, whereas Addis has a very, very small backlog, tiny, not worth even discussing as a backlog, frankly. But, and Addis is slightly ahead of Accra, right? If you look at the African consulates and you sort of compare them side by side. You can do the same thing in Europe. You can do the same thing in Asia. You can get an understanding of where your embassy is getting its work from. You can also do things like look at Ankara. If we have a look at Ankara there, you can see here's Ankara, and you can see how many cases they're taking per 1,000, but it's broken down for EU versus Asia. So you can see that Asia is somewhat backlogged in that in that point up to, well, let me just go all the way to the left so I can see the numbers. Yeah. So Asia for Ankara, where's Ankara now? Oh, it's gone over there. So column 7 is 4,000. There's Ankara, right? So Ankara has Asian cases in the 3,000 to 4,000 range. Is that right? 1,000 to 2,000, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Yeah. So in the 4,000 range. Has some cases, but not as many as it should have. So it's not completely through that range yet. And EU is behind about 1,000 numbers, right? And so that's kind of interesting too. You can figure out where the cases are coming from for an embassy that is taking cases from more than one region. Okay, so some really good data here. This data is exactly the same data as Zarthisius's data. Because that's the source. Zarthisius, his data is provided as a source for this spreadsheet, but this spreadsheet helps you look at all of the embassies at once to see, where the cases are distributed. It's kind of a nice way to look at things. Okay, so that's worth you looking at. Let's just go and see if I've got any questions. Then I'm sure I do, right? Just in case, I always love your name. I'm very well, thank you. Right. Future of DV lottery with current situation. You're referring to Trump. There is nothing, although he, like everything at the moment, he thinks is to do with DEI, and the D in DEI is diversity. So, he was talking the other day about the border, and he said that the problem there is DEI. And he talked about the LA fires, and he said the problem there was DEI. And then there was a plane crash, tragic accident between an airliner and a Black Hawk helicopter. And he immediately, without any information at all, because he's a moron, he immediately starts blaming DEI for that as well. And he, and in answer to why he was sort of pinning things on DEI, expecting somebody asking him a question, expecting him to give a somewhat reasonable answer, as we would expect from the president of the USA, he says he's using his common sense. The man has no common sense, but anyway. So, but so what that little ramble was about the word diversity. at some point, he may come back in his tiny little pea brain. He may connect the dots to diversity visa lottery. He might do. So I'm not saying he's not going to try and do something about diversity visa lottery, but it isn't high on his agenda right now. So I don't think there's any real sort of threat. There is a bigger threat, I would say, in him slowing case processing down in general in immigration, or of course in travel bans for specific countries. I think there's strong possibility that he'll put a travel ban in place once he gets that report back that is due in 50 days from now. So yeah, let's be honest, that's probably how things are going to go. He's going to ban some countries, and he's going to slow down other countries processing, basically from brown people. So Philip, how you doing? New hour for Q&A? Not really. I've just been very tied up this morning, so sorry about that. Right, let's see. Please, what's your email address? I don't answer emails directly. I don't answer private messages at all on Telegram or anything else. What I do is I answer my questions in public. That way more people can see those answers, right? So more than one person benefits. And also there's absolutely no doubt that because I provide my services absolutely free of charge. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to practice law without a license. And if I was trying to sort of take people to private messages and that sort of thing, there could be a suspicion raised that that's what I'm trying to do, that I'm trying to charge people money for consulting on the side, which I don't do. People ask me all the time, will you give me some private time for whatever money? I'm not interested in doing that. That's not my day job. This is just a hobby. So, so no, I don't answer emails. Is visa bulletin for February out, and how is the Nairobi in terms of 2NL? Okay, let's talk about Nairobi. Obviously, the visa bulletin that affects March interviews is out, yes. Now, Nairobi, it's the 1st of February. And as of today, no interviews have been scheduled for March in Nairobi, which is a disappointment, I have to say. There were also no interviews scheduled. I don't believe there are any interviews scheduled in Nairobi in January or February. So 3 months now where Nairobi has taken no cases whatsoever. That's a concern. Let's have a look at our spreadsheet for a second. I just want to have a look at Nairobi here. Let's see if it will show where we got to. Where are you on NRB? Here we go. Right. So let me go back to showing this screen. Why is that not appearing? That's weird. Hang on a second. Nope, not invite. Oh dear me. Present. Share screen. Entire screen. That one, but without that. Yes. Right. Nairobi. So Nairobi were scheduling cases quite nicely for October, November, December. They were going pretty well. They had 45, 30, 47, 53, that, per 1,000, they were doing okay, right? So this is 1,000, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So up to about 11,000, they were doing a normal job, and then they just stopped dead, right? Which means that they are currently 14,000 case numbers behind the curve, kind of thing, backlogged, basically. And they appear to be taking something like, what's that, about, I would say, probably almost 40 cases, but we'll call it 35 cases, right? So to clear that backlog of 14,000, 14 times 35 would be about 500. So they need to now, they would need, if they were going to fix this problem by having a big bumper April, they would need to issue 500 2NL simply to get us up to 25,000. And then whatever extra at 35 cases per 1,000 for whatever the number goes to. So let's say the number goes to 30,000, which is probably about likely for Africa. If it goes to 30,000, then they're going to be almost 20,000 behind, so 700 cases behind, right? in terms of in terms of catching up with the backlog. Now, I've seen Nairobi catch up with backlog before, but I don't know what's going on at Nairobi. So I am starting to be concerned. They've had 3 months with no scheduling. I don't know what the reason is. And I do believe, I kind of feel belief that Nairobi are going to fix this, to be honest with you, but I can't prove that because I don't know the reason why they stopped scheduling. So if you're in a situation where you're at Nairobi embassy and you feel like you want to move to another embassy, you can do that if you want to. And if your case number is just above 25,000, let's say it's between 25 and 35,000, in that number range, then you should probably do that. If that's what you want to do, you should probably do that now, this week, this coming week, because the visa bulletin is going to be released the week after this coming week, right? And so at that point, your chance of unlocking your DS-260 will reduce because you'll probably be in AV status, and you'll be locked into Nairobi, Nairobi Consulate. Now, as I say, I personally think if I were at Nairobi, I think I would still have belief in them. I think I would wait for them, to be honest with you. But some of you won't want to do that, and you'll want to move to other embassies, and that's fine if you want to try that. You can definitely try that. And if you want to try that and you want to know the best way to make that work, first thing is Google the words Brit Simon change embassies and read my article there that explains how to do that. And then make sure you do that this week, right? Don't wait. Like don't procrastinate your way into a decision that you didn't mean to make, right? And as I say, just at the end of that, I just want to say, if I were at Nairobi, I would wait for them because I think they're going to come back. But that's just my guess. That's my gut reaction. I don't really have any sort of definite information to say that. And in a month's time, if they also didn't schedule in April, I would probably change that feeling because they're creating too big a backlog. Meanwhile, other embassies in Africa are generally doing pretty well. And again, you can look at that spreadsheet of data and you can look at Zarthisius's site and you can figure that out. But generally speaking, Nairobi is probably my big sort of remaining concern in Africa. Other embassies that haven't been doing well are now doing much better. Addis and Accra and Cairo, they've come back online. So Africa is steaming along pretty well. Okay. All right, let's try and move through some questions. Thank you for that, Saku. Let's see. Hey, Simon, my DV case number 33K, safe for interviews. Of course it is. Pay attention. 33K, by the way, I assume you're talking about Africa. You could be talking about EU, in which case you're in trouble. But yeah, when you give me the numbers, you have to give me the region, right? Because otherwise I'm going to jump to the wrong conclusion. So yeah, please give me your region as well as your case number. Can official ask you why you choose this embassy? Yeah, look, lucky boy, don't get yourself into a situation of being wound up and tense because you've told a bunch of lies and you don't know how to answer the lies, right? Don't lie, first and foremost. You can take advantage of the system without lying, okay? But you know, whatever question you're asked in the interview, you should be able to just answer honestly and without stress and without practicing the answers, right? So your question makes me feel like you might be just concealing something. Okay, Ahmed says, hello, Simon. Does KCC accept requesting to unlock DS-260 more than one time? Yes, they do stop unlocking when you've asked 1,978 times. But as long as it's less than 1,978 times, they can do it. Victoria, Brett, do you think Freetown will deliver as expected? I'm getting scared. I'm a Ghanaian, but I transferred my case there. Yeah, frustratingly, and now Ghana is doing well. Case number is 33K. I don't know whether Freetown are going to pick up and whether they're going to start, working well. Let's see how badly backlogged they are, if at all. FTN, where are you? FTN, yeah, the backlog down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6,000. So they're quite badly backlogged. And yes, you would have been better off at this point if you'd stayed in Accra, which, if you listen to me, I was telling people to get the hell out of Accra. So I apologize for everyone I said that to. I'm not 100% sure Accra are going to start behaving well, but it was clearly not something that anybody predicted, that they would suddenly issue 300 2NLs, right? And they might say, they might not issue any in April. We don't know, right? We don't know if that's going to continue. So you need to make your own decisions based on what you see. But with your particular case number, AF33K, I think you're unlikely to be current in this next month. So you have a little bit more time to see. Do you see increase in new VB for Asia? Yes. Doesn't mean I'm going to say there's going to be 10,000 increase, but I see some increase. Nairobi Embassy, no 2NLs. Yeah, I've already talked about Nairobi. Any updates for Freetown? Just talked about it. Case number AS9000, is it safe? Yes. My case went under 221G. How long will it take? Eddie, I get asked questions about this. 221G ranges from a few days to several months, 5 months, 6 months. And it depends why you went into 221G in the first place and where you're from and that sort of thing. So if you went into 221G because, let's say, you're an Iranian, or you're a nuclear weapons engineer, and you spent a little bit of vacation time, a few months in Iran or something, they're probably going to be looking into your background a little bit more closely, and it's going to take longer, right? And so 221G can last months. But if you're doing the 221G, which is just because they're checking your education documents or something like that, then it shouldn't really take very long at all. But I don't know why your case in particular is in 221G. So I can't answer your question. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Okay. Is it possible to transfer my case out of Nairobi when my case number is current, case number 16K? It's much harder once you're current, right? It's not impossible, but it is much harder. The best way to transfer cases, the most reliable way, is still changing your address. And some people disagree with me about that, but people disagree with me about all sorts of shit, and they're usually wrong, right? So, the most reliable way is to change your address on your DS260 because you've moved to another country. And if you do that before you become current, that's easy to do. After you become current, it's harder, because if your DS260 is processed and you're current, then you are moved into a status called AV, which is stage 4, where they write an email response. If you ask them what's my status, they'll say you are current for interview processing. That little phrase shows that you're in AV status or stage 4. When you're in that status, KCC won't cooperate with unlocking your case, your DS260, to allow you to make changes. So at that point, your only real opportunity is to speak to another embassy. Let's say you've then moved to, you've moved to Addis, you live in Addis, and you somehow managed to contact Addis, and you somehow managed to persuade Addis to contact KCC on your behalf, right, and ask KCC to reassign your case to them, then KCC will take the case out of the queue and move it to them. Now, that sounds difficult to achieve, and it is, unless you're from one of the homeless countries like Afghanistan, where you have a certain amount of free choice about where you can be interviewed. Unless you're from one of those countries, then it is quite hard to achieve what I just said. And it's not impossible, and some people have done it, and some people have had pretty good success. But it's not always going to be the case, right? It's not always going to work out that way. So you can try, but it's not that likely to work. Okay. Hi, Britt. So if you win the lottery and you're in Ghana, but you want to have your interview in either Togo or Cote d'Ivoire, what would you advise I choose? Well, it's up to you. Have a look at the data. I'm not going to tell you to choose between one or the other. You can have a look at the data just the same as I can. I've put in the chat, I've put the links to all the data. Hi, Simon, DV Lottery winner 2025 AF50K. I filled in DS260 before 4 months ago. So what about 2NL? And I'm in London now. How will the interview going? Right, so your AF50K, you can't get interviewed until 3 different things happen, right? All 3 of these have to be true. You have to have submitted and had your DS260 processed. You sent yours 4 months ago. It may or may not be processed. Your case number has to be current. Your case number is not current at AF50K, and it won't be for several months, probably until 3 or 4 months from now. And your embassy has to have capacity to take your case. So capacity is one thing, your case number being current is the other, and then DS260 is processed. So in your particular situation, you're going to have to wait probably 3 or 4 months before you get anywhere near 50K for the visa bulletin number that is able to be scheduled. Okay. Kojo, Simon, you were right. I've received my 2NL. Thank you, buddy. Good. Glad to hear it. Elvin, 41K. Is it true that you now don't require COVID vaccine when doing your medicals for DV? Or is that just someone who needed views giving false info? It's a bit of a confusion. So there was a rule put out there that USCIS no longer require a COVID vaccine for cases going through immigrant interviews. However, USCIS only handle cases in the USA. Right. So what the government are basically saying is that if you're in the USA going through an adjustment to status process, you don't need the COVID vaccine because you're in the USA, you're already here, you don't need it. If you're going through consular processing at any other place in the world, right, it is still part of the requirement that you have the COVID vaccine and several other vaccines, right? And that may change. It may change at some point because the new administration is changing all sorts of things, right? And maybe that will change. Maybe they'll follow suit. But for now, you should have the vaccine. You will also find, by the way, that when you come to America to enroll your kids in school, they need vaccines, right? And unless you're a complete moron, you should believe in vaccines. People, if you look at the life expectancy changes that have happened over the previous 20, 30, 50 years, there's a lot more life expectancy for people these days because we have learned how to control certain diseases and so on. And a part of that is the same research and development techniques that created the COVID vaccine. So there was a lot of political bullshit and scaremongering about the COVID vaccines, and it's led some people to be anti-vax. And really, those people are just anti-intelligence. That's all it means. It's fine. I honestly believe I would probably be dead today if it hadn't been for the vaccination. And I also believe that my mum would have been alive today if she had been, if she'd been given the vaccination earlier. Well, she didn't get the vaccination. It wasn't released before she died, unfortunately, from COVID. But yeah, I lost 6 friends to COVID. So I've got absolutely zero patience for anybody who wants to tell me that they think they know more than scientists and doctors, etc. Got no patience for those sort of people. Hi, my case number is 2025 AF61K. I'm from Eritrea, Nairobi Embassy. Is there hope? When might the interview be? Your 61K, that's a pretty high number. The when might your interview be is obvious. It's going to be at the end of the year, August or September, right? That's obvious. And that's if you get current, right? And at your case number, you do have a certain amount of risk already. So it clearly isn't going to be in April, clearly not going to be in May, right? It's going to be at the end of the year, if at all, right? What Nairobi Embassy will be performing like at that time, we don't know. But as I say, they are a pretty determined embassy. So we'll have to wait and see how they behave in the next couple of months. Okay. Hello, Britt. DV28, 28K EU. If I do get accepted, can I come back to the UK where I'm currently working to get an aircraft engineer license, which takes 5 years? Like me, 5 years. I've done 2.5 years and I've got 2.5 years left. Wow. Why do you need to do this aircraft licensing in the UK and not in the USA? That would be my first question. America has much more aviation than the UK, and I'm speaking about that with a little bit of understanding because I used to live in the UK. You may have recognized the accent, right? So there are opportunities to study the same thing over here. You'd just be able to transfer, to a course over here. What you're going to have to do if you don't do that, though, is you're going to have to keep your green card status alive. So your 28K EU. If you get interviewed, you'll be interviewed probably in about September, right? Which means you'll be given a visa which will allow you to enter within 6 months after the medical, which for you will probably mean, therefore, you're entering around about February or March for the first time. And you're going to want to delay things for as much as possible. So that's already 1 year off your 2.5 years that you've got left, right? So that's more than a year from now. So that's good, right? We've already got 1 year from there. Then you enter the USA and you leave for another 12 months. You don't need any permission to do that. You don't need a re-entry permit or so on. You leave for up to 12 months because when you do your activation trip, it is perfectly understandable that you're going to then go away, tidy up some loose ends, sell the car, say goodbye to the cats or whatever, and come over and move to America, right? And so, and some people take up to a year to do that. So once you've activated, you can leave straight away, go back to your course. You've just gained another year. You're now at 2 years, right? And you're probably going to graduate around about summer of 27, right? 25, 26, 27, yeah, 27. And so you'll need probably one more entry trip after that, because once you go back after that 12 months entry period, so the 12 months would be 2026, let's say March of 26, right? Roughly about that time. And you'll need to go away and then come back probably in the summer of 2027. Geez, I'm probably mangling these dates. But you can understand how you're going to make a plan for this. And that will probably be enough to get you that 2.5 years, right? That's all you have to do, really. You might have to repeat, do another trip for 6 months or less. It is better to be out of the country for under 6 months, right? When you go out of the country for under 6 months, you can come back in, you get very little questioning, if any, and they actually shouldn't, question you at all. When you come in back after an absence of between 6 and 12 months, you can get some cases get a little bit more questioning. It's not really a problem. Don't really need to stress about it. And although lawyers always say come back within 6 months, you can come back within 12 months. It's fine. It's legally possible. And my source for that, by the way, is the government. Right? The government say so. And lots of people that I know have done that. So yeah, you're going to be fine because you're going to sort of gain all the time. You'll be absolutely fine, right? Hands-on coding. Is there any signs that the current DV program delays are caused by the new administration? We've been waiting for 2NL since months. Any clues? For every time for the last few weeks, I keep saying every time, guys, we are actually seeing a pretty fast-moving DV lottery so far this year. We're already further ahead in DV 2025 than we were at this time in DV 23 or DV 24. We're further ahead, guys. So we're not having a very delayed time for it. Now, some embassies are a little bit delayed, yes, but it's sporadic. Some are going fast and others are not. But in general, there have been more people scheduled so far in DV 25 than at the same time in 2024 or 23. So it's not to do with the current administration. The current administration are too busy fucking around with everything else, frankly, and issuing executive orders and then rescinding them the next day because they've got no idea what they're doing. So I don't believe they're in there tinkering with DV lottery at any point at the moment. To be honest, they're just running around like headless chickens doing nothing sensible. So Monia. Thanks for your explanation. Is 54K a safe AF number? Yeah, it's sort of safe depending on your embassy, right? First of all, we'd like to say thank you for what you do. You're welcome. I looked at the new statistics, and for the Warsaw embassy, the number of visas issued has decreased. How is this possible? Decreased? Decreased from what? Don't know what you mean, really. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what statistics you're looking at to say, though, that's decreased. I don't know what you're saying, really. Peter Mbogo. What's the problem with the Kenyan embassy? I've not received second batch of... yeah, I think we've already talked about it. Most of them have already relocated to USA. Yeah, I've already talked about it. Hi, Britt. I'm Emmanuel. Yeah, I understood that from your name. Why Freetown is now acting slowly? Don't know. We never heard about Dakar. How they're doing? Have a look at the data, please. Philip, this works for big embassies and crowded ones, but for example, how is this working for my BCH embassy that is 1 to 4, and then they're almost at the cutoff? Yeah, so there are some embassies, as you very well know, Philip, that are not consistent within the 1 to 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000 ranges. They're not consistent. It's sporadic, and yes, you can't use data like this to predict anything, right? All you can do is see that as they move through month to month, that they continually get close to the cutoff, right? That they're at 13,000 for EU and close around that. But it's not going to be precise because they may have no cases above 9,000 or something until 16,000. So it may be a little bit difficult for you to track it. But at a very small embassy like that, it's normally okay. You're normally fine, right? So you should be okay. I don't think you're going to have a problem. I think the final visa bulletin number for EU is going to be favorable for you. You're going to have a lovely path, and you're going to come and work with me in America. Vida, I am in 5230. My case is ready. Can I get my interview? I mean, with such a detailed question, how could I not answer that? Willart TV, is it safe to ask my embassy to unlock my DS260 for correction after I'm scheduled for interview, or should I wait for the interview date to make such changes? There's no real need to unlock your DS260 after the interview unless something dramatic has happened. If you got married, you're required to unlock your DS260. If you've had a baby, you're required to. But if you're going in there just to fool around with an address of, your pharmacy that you used 20 years ago, nobody gives a damn, right? So don't make changes for that. And you will be given the opportunity in the interview to confirm the details in your DS260. And that's the best time to make the changes, to be honest, unless, as I say, you're trying to add a derivative to your case through marriage or birth, okay? Can you recommend 30K to stay at Freetown Embassy or transfer? It's a bit early for us to sort of jump to that conclusion. I would like to see another month of scheduling, at least. Hey, Britt, something strange happened with the Abidjan Embassy. We 42 total, 2 in by you guys, 38. Oh, what happened? What are you talking about? What happened to the other 7, he's saying? Well, let me just see if I can figure out what you're saying. Abidjan, APJ. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what you're saying, so I don't know what weird is happening. Getting rid of DEI will definitely lower the cost of eggs. Yeah, right. Good evening from USA. The sun is fine today, says Joe. Yes, indeed it is. It's kind of raining over here. Hate it. Britt, I made a mistake in the entry level with the educational achievement aspect. Can I change it on my DS260? Yes, you can. The education level you choose on the DV entry is purely statistical analysis for the government. That's all it is. It doesn't affect your eligibility for the program or anything else. The same thing is true of the DS260 question, which says the same thing. So yeah, just list your actual education and you'll be fine. I've literally never, in all the years that I've been doing this, I've never heard of a single person where they went to the interview and they were denied because of what they said on the DV entry with regard to their education level. That literally has never happened. So don't worry about it. Bula from Fiji here. Would like to thank you for what you do. You're welcome. OC 1900, CN, and your channel has been a great help. Oh, that's all. No problem, Tara. I had a girlfriend called Tara one time. I don't think it's you though. Joe, how's Nairobi doing this? How's Nairobi MC this year? Not as good as last year, Joe, but that's only so far. Thanks always for the updates. Please, my brother is AF 70,518. Any chance this case is ever attained for 2025? Right, so that case number is above my calculation, right? And in order for us to get to that high number, we would have to be seeing big problems in Africa in not issuing visas, right? And it's a little bit early to sort of jump to a conclusion to say that's not happening. But in general, we are seeing high scheduling. With the high scheduling we're seeing in Africa, it's likely that we're going to have high issuance, and there's not a lot of problems happening in Africa. So it is unlikely, in my opinion, that we're going to get to those higher numbers. Now, things can change, right? Trump could come in here and he could, ban several African countries, and that will change things. And if he banned some countries, that would increase your chances for your brother. Is it your brother? For your brother, it would increase his chances. So I can't say it's impossible to get to that number, but it's looking risky, right? That's what I would say. Sven says, thank you, Vienna, from Vienna, I guess. Not related to TV or anything, but I'm visiting my boyfriend in the US in just a bit more than a week. So excited to stay in the US for a while again. Oh, great. That's awesome. Thanks for letting me know. I was on tenterhooks wondering what you're doing. The case number is 70,000 from Cameroon. Yeah, it's all about the number. Case number 58,000 AF from Yoendi. What do you think of it? It's okay. It's a bit high. Can you please update us on the current updated form I-134, because it's like the one being used for some years has been changed. Some parts are missing. I don't think so. I don't think it's changed. I-134. Let's see. Declaration of financial support. Oh, hang on, there's an update. There is an update. Let's see. What's the edition date? The edition date is 12/24. Okay, there's a new edition from December of 24. So yeah, have a look at it. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at it. I don't think it can be that much different, in all honesty, but I'll have a look at it and just see if it needs sort of revision in terms of my video that describes how to go through it. But I suspect not. It's, I wouldn't have thought so. Eddie says, I'm from Liberia. When I went for the interview, I answer all the questions good. I service in the military, and she told me to send my military records through DHL. You should have known to take those already before she can approve my visa. This is why I tell people ask me all the time, please give me a list of the documents I should take to the interview, right? And it would be the simplest thing in the world for me to write out a list of documents. But it does not apply in every case. You have to read the instructions and use a little bit of thinking, because it was predictable if you've got military service that they're going to ask you about military records. And if you'd have read the instructions, you would have known that and you would have gone prepared to the interview. As it is, you didn't have those documents, so now you're waiting. So I'm sorry to be tough on you, Eddie, but that was kind of an own goal you kicked there. Amadou, Freetown Embassy is not sending 2NLs. Is it advisable to send an email to the embassy because KCC replies saying your case is currently for interview processing? So I read this one out, even though we talked about Freetown, because it makes an interesting point. Before your case is sent, before you get the 2NL, KCC hold on to your case. When they send the 2NL, that is the first time the embassy know anything about you. They don't know a damn thing about you, right? So you can email the embassy and say, hey, guys, it's me, that DV lottery winner. And they're going to say, who are you? They don't know who you are. They don't know that you're a DV lottery winner. Nothing. They know nothing about your case. They also have no power over your case, right? So it's hard to get them to respond to you when they don't even know who you are, right? So I don't know what you're going to say to them, to be honest with you. I was asked by KCC to expect a letter within 70 days, but it's been almost 2 weeks. My interview is on the 10th of March, 2025. Oh, okay. So what letter are you expecting? You don't need any letter. You know exactly your date of your interview. Okay. Maybe you need your time of interview. So there was a technical glitch that stopped the actual interview letters being shown on the ESC webpage. And during that time, KCC was sending letters saying, your interview is at, in your case, Accra Embassy on the 10th of March, but it didn't give the time, right? And so you just have to be patient. And I made a video about this, and I've spoken about this before. But basically, what you have to do is go back into the ESC page, and I think you'll probably see your 2NL now. And by your 2NL, I mean the letter that says appear at this time on this date at Accra Embassy, right? So you should get that now. That's the letter that they were referring to, and it's not a letter, by the way. It's this notification on the ESC page. Don't be waiting for the mailman to be delivering a letter to you, right? Or an email or anything like that. It's on the ESC page you need to check, okay? 9,500 to 10,000 from Nepal. What are the chances? You should just about be okay, Sula. Want to know your opinion about changing the location of the interview from the Casablanca consulate in Morocco to the Paris consulate in France. My case number is 67.5. Well, it sounds like a stupid idea, to be honest with you. Why would you change from Casablanca? I mean, Casablanca is doing very, very well. Let me just check the data here on my handy dandy spreadsheet that Norek produced for us. See, CSB. Yeah, CSB are right up to date. They've taken hundreds of interviews. They're doing really well. They're almost no backlog at all. So why would you change at this point? It seems like, why would you do that? Your number is the biggest problem you've got. You're worrying about interview location, but actually you should be worrying about your case number. Your case number is pretty high, and it's going to be somewhat miraculous if you get to the case number. But changing to Paris isn't going to make that number go smaller, right? Your number is what it is, okay? Would you advise I take my interview in Accra for the DV lottery? Yeah, if you're in Accra, it's fine. Could Nairobi be affected by the move they pulled, sending emails to Donald Trump to have Meg Whitman sent back to the US? Because it almost seems interviews stopped since Meg left. There is always a transition when the president changes, right? That's completely normal. It doesn't stop the embassy running, right? And although they didn't receive any interviews for January, February, March, you have to understand that that means that they stopped taking interviews in November, right? November was for January interviews. December was for February interviews, right? So, so the point doesn't make any sense. It had nothing to do with Trump coming in. So, yeah. So no, it's not to do with what you think it is, but who knows what it is? I don't know. Sophie, thanks for all the advices. I'm EU 8000. My kid's name, by the way, is spelled like that. My daughter's name. I haven't received my 2NL from Dakar. Is it possible they prioritize AF cases or that they have a backlog? You are EU 8000. And let's have a look at the data. Dakar. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. It's pretty brutal. They've taken one case from EU, and they've taken cases up to several thousand for Africa. Okay, so what's happened is there is a little bit of an alphabetical sorting thing going on. It's no more than that. It's not anything more than that. I found it hard to believe when we first heard about this, but during one of the lawsuits, the government revealed their method to determine how an AV status case is prioritized, and how they prioritize it is basically on numeric order. But it also has an aspect which is alphabetical, which means Africa went before Asia and before EU and so on. It's kind of insane to think that it comes down to alphabetical, but it kind of is. So let's just check something here. Where is, 12,000, yeah. So what the data is telling me is that Dakar are in that first batch of AV cases still during the first months, which means they're going to come back to EU. So you just need to sort of relax, be calm. I think you'll probably get an interview next month, or year 2NL rather, I should say, next month. They'll have gone through that sort of set of cases, and they'll come back to you, assuming that your DS-260 was processed quite some time ago. It's a bit complex. If you want to understand a little bit better about that, I have a video that explains how AV queues are handled, and it will kind of make the point to you. But just relax really at the moment, Sophie, and good luck. Okay. Okay, Liz Springs in Colorado Springs. Wow. Thanks for your free advice. God bless you. Very welcome. What a great place you've chosen to live as well. Colorado Springs is awesome for as long as you don't mind a little bit of cold weather occasionally. But yeah, beautiful place. So I have to come there for a vacation. Handsome boy 27. I've always thought your name is a bit weird, to be honest with you. This Zarthisius guy chose such a hard name. That's why I call him Sasuzras. Are they called Zaza? Blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. It is a bit weird. His name. I don't know what possessed him to call himself that, but he's a bit of a geek, a bit of a what these smart people are like, right? They're all in their head, and there's probably some, it's probably related to Star Wars or something silly. Or the god of potatoes or something. I don't know. But, let's hear from Zarthisius in the Telegram channel. Why the hell did you choose that dopey name? Because none of us can pronounce it, especially when it's possessive. It's a pain in the ass. It gets my teeth all of a jitter. So, Yan and To. I mean, look at this. Speaking of complicated names. I received my 2NL for March, but I traveled China 2019 for study and spent only 5.5 months there. But I was detained for 5 days because I overstayed the issue, and I was given an exit visa. Okay, so you definitely need to provide a police certificate for that, right? You understand that, I hope. I'm not sure if China issue police certificates to non-Chinese, but check the instructions on how to get a police certificate. But because you were detained, you're supposed to have that. Okay, so look into that. Raider, hope you're doing okay. I'm asking for a family member. What do you think about 66K Casablanca? Do you suggest changing embassy or anything else to have a better chance? No, I don't suggest changing embassy. I think Casablanca are going to do well. But yes, your number is a bit scary, and all you can do is wait and see. Hi, Simon. I'm Kenyan. I was in Lebanon 2014. Do I still need police clearance certificate from Lebanon? You need to read the instructions. That's what you need to do, and figure out whether you need a police certificate or not. I'm finding it difficult to obtain a police clearance certificate from China because I have no one there. How will it affect my case? Well, if they know you were detained, they will want to see the police certificate. So yeah, keep trying and read the instructions. Because and if necessary, read and follow the instructions and document the fact that you've followed the instructions, right? That's important too. Okay. Okay, starting to scan down a little bit now. How do I confirm my appointment with my embassy on the new AVIT system? Thank you. Apparently there's a problem with the AVIT system at the moment in France, I believe. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I would tell you that two things with these courier registration systems like US Visa or whatever it is, and Avits, etc. They have fairly simplistic systems. If you read all the options, it makes sense. But there still may be a technical glitch that causes a problem. It's not that you get refused if you don't fill in this system, right? So don't like lose your mind about this. Just do the best you can, stay calm, read all the options. And if you can't register, that's not going to cause you a problem. You just still go to the interview, right? So relax, everyone. It's all calm. I don't have my ID. I'm making one now. What do you mean you're making one now? What, and you like in the evening you're scribbling out your ID? What do you mean? But I want to have a name change. Yeah, good idea. Make your own ID and change your name as well, because that's not going to be any problem, right? And I want to make a name change, which is going to be different from my passport. No shit, Sherlock. Is it going to be a problem for my DV case? The passport name is the one on the DS260. Why do you need to do all this complicated crap right now? Why are you going through making a new ID and changing your name and making it different from the passport? You're going through a once-in-a-lifetime process. Is it really important you change your name right now? I don't know. If you want to stick pins in your own eyes, feel free, go ahead. But I wouldn't do it. Why would you do this thing you're doing? I don't know. Asia, 8K 2025. When do you think it will be? In the next couple of months. Please, what do you know about document pre-screening in Ghana? Nothing. Sir, my case 55K. How is that case? And could you tell me the month I will get the visa bulletin? It will be towards the end of the program, probably in maybe July, but more likely August, maybe September. But it's around about August. And the way I work that out is because just a bit of common sense, right? Have DV 2025 results started coming out? Yes, DV 2025 results came out in May of 2024. I think you may mean DV 2026. Those results will be out in May of this year, right? So 2 or 3 months from now. Oh, very helpful. Thank you, Frank. Hi, Britt. Is there any hope for 15K AF in Freetown? Yeah, of course. Can you do consular processing? I don't know if that's half a question. Is AS 17K safe, and can this day problems affect in Egypt? I don't know what that means. 17K is about the lowest part of where I feel there may be some beginning risk, right? So it should be safe, but it's at the level where you start to feel a little bit of nervousness at that number, right? Stoic Turk, how you been doing? You've been doing a lot of thinking and writing to me on my blog just recently. Here we go. This sounds like a thoughtful one. If we deduce most embassies aren't backlogged, looking at the spreadsheet you've shown at the beginning, as far as EU cases go, does that mean that the upcoming visa bulletin will have a higher increase? Your logic is somewhat correct if they're not backlogged. But I don't think that's entirely true. I think the backlog has improved a little bit because they kept the numbers low for a couple of months, right? Or lower. And yes, I am expecting a little bit more of an increase, but it's not like I'm expecting 5,000 increase. Bear in mind, we're at 13,000 now. I'm expecting to get to maybe optimistically, let's say 30,000, right? 17,000 in 6 months, right? So we could see maybe 2,000 to 3,000 movement in the typical month over the next 6 months. That's roughly the sort of level that we should see. Maybe 3,000 some months, 2,000 the next month, but better than the 1,000 we saw last month. So that's roughly what I'm expecting. I could be wrong, but it should be in that level. I have the same number like your friend Philip, 29K, both of us, Bucharest Embassy. We have a real chance, right? I'm not really bullshitting when I tell Philip to try and relax. He's not 100% safe, nor are you. But yeah, it's in the right ballpark. He's just under 29,100, right? So hopefully you're in that same level. Fingers crossed, right? But this happens every year. I get personally involved with this because I've been doing this for long enough to have seen a lot of people that I really came to like and enjoy talking to, etc., and thoughtful people, friendly people, appreciative people, all sorts of people. I get a bunch of assholes every year as well, but I get a lot of nice people. And this year, Philip is one of those nice people. He's a nice guy, nice family guy, and deserves his chance. He would be an asset to America. He'll also be perfectly fine if he doesn't come to America, right? I know that. I get that. I totally understand that. He's doing well in life, and that's fine. But you just get personally involved a little bit because this is a human process, and this is why I've done it since 2013, right? Because it's about a human interaction. It's what makes it tough when some people don't make it through. So yeah. Can you do consular processing for DV in an embassy in USA if you're already in USA? No, there's two different processes. If you're in the USA, you have the right to either go back to your own country to do consular processing, which by definition means at an embassy outside of the USA, right? At a US embassy outside of the USA. There are no US embassies inside the USA, even though some freaking dopey Americans think California is a different country, different world. We don't have any US embassies in any part of the USA, right? So if you're in the USA on a non-immigrant visa, then there's a process called adjustment of status, which you can do in the USA, right? So that's your two choices: AOS, adjustment of status, or CP, which is consular processing outside of the US. Okay. Sorry, I did not mention the embassy. 54K Algiers. Is it better to change to Tunisia? I don't know. It's too early. There's no point in trying to make expectation guesses on a number that isn't going to be current until probably July or August. So just relax and wait until we got some data. In SEAC data, some cases are MVC but do not get 2NL despite cases are current. Why does this happen? Okay. Cases stay at MVC, and MVC is a starting case for every case, right? Which simply means that case was not scheduled. Why are cases not scheduled? Well, because some people never submit the DS-260. They don't find out they're winners, or they find out they're a winner, but they don't want to proceed with the case for whatever reason. Or they submit their DS-260, they want to proceed to interview, but they are somehow blocked from getting scheduled to an interview for some reason, right? And that reason could be that their embassy is blocked and isn't taking any cases. It could be because they don't become current and so on, right? But basically, that's what you need to think about. It's either people who didn't submit their DS-260, or they did submit the DS-260, but they're blocked by some reason, okay? Happens every year. Oh, there you go, Philip. Hello, we'll make it. We'll meet at the embassy. Yeah, you'll probably both be there at the same time. Eric, I noticed that on my birth certificate, my mother's name is different to the one I put in the DS-260. She had my dad's surname, but later she got divorced and does not have that surname. Help. Okay, so you put no. Okay, so the in the DS-260, the question is phrased something like your mother's surname at birth, meaning your birth, I believe. Or is that the question that talks about her maiden name? I don't know. But anyway, if you feel that your answer to that question was wrong, then you can unlock it and correct it. There's no harm in doing that. It's not going to get you denied if you got that wrong. They do try and make the connections, right? The reason that we're asked about our parentage is because in some countries that's how family connections are understood, through the parents' names, etc. Right? So, and the registrar of births and deaths, for example, in each country will have that information and will show who the parents are. So it shows who you are, right? Who you're born to. So if you feel you got that question wrong, just go ahead and change it. Not a big deal to change that. Okay. Thomas says, can you apply for adjustment status in April when your case number is announced to be current in June in Part C of the visa bulletin? I think I've explained this to you before, Thomas. So the visa bulletin that was published in January is for March interviews. If that visa bulletin had made your case number current and you want to do adjustment to status, then there is an early filing policy, which means that you could have filed as soon as that January visa bulletin was released that made your number current for March, right? The early filing policy lets you do that. So if you roll that forward to, where is it, April, May, June, right. So in April, they will release a visa bulletin that will make June interview ranges available, right? And again, if the visa bulletin in April is the one that makes you current for June, then yes, you can file early at that point. What you can't do is file before you're current. Current meaning when the visa bulletin has shown your number as being available, even though that's not available for another couple of months, okay? There's some buddies being created here. Paul and Philip are going to have a beer together. That's nice. The number of selectees in Eritrea, 142, very small number compared to last year. Does this guarantee any chance of getting an interview, even though your case number is high? No. The number of selectees in a country is completely irrelevant, right? It doesn't give you any sort of special sort of privilege because nothing happens by country, it's by region, right? So no, the fact that they got a very small number is simply that they got a small number of selectees. They got a small number of selectees because they had a small number of entries. That's it. It doesn't give them any special advantage. Okay. Derek, we'll probably have to call this the last question. I'll have a quick scan down, but we'll see. I'm a Gabonese student in South Africa. When applying for DV, should I put my Gabonese address or the South African one, considering they later ask the country of residence? If you're studying in South Africa, you're clearly not commuting, right? And so if I were you, I would be saying, yeah, this is my address in South Africa. That's what I would do if I were you. Right. Let me just see if there's any really interesting. Oh, this is the one I haven't answered in a while. Regarding translation of documents, does it have to be done by a certified translator in order for documents to be accepted? I've had quite a few countries to get the police cert from. Cheers. So the rule about this, it does not have to be a certified translator. The person who translates your documents needs to be able to sign the document saying that they swear they are competent in translating this document. That's all. It shouldn't be a family member. It should not be yourself, obviously. It shouldn't be a family member. But if it's a friend who is competent to translate that document, that friend doesn't have to do a job as being a translator in order to sign that document, right? It doesn't need to be, and there's no requirement for that from the government point of view. Okay. Okay. I think they'll do it. Now, I'm just going to refer to this question because I couldn't agree more with this comment. I just wanted to remind you that you're the best. Thank you, Roberta. Appreciate that. So if anybody feels that I missed their question, they want to ask me a question, please go to britsimonsays.com, put your question in there, and I will answer it there personally. Okay. If anybody's got any sort of wacky questions they want to ask, I'd love to answer them there. So feel free. Other than that, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up, like on this one. And then over the next few days, hopefully I'm working on a video at the moment I want to release, so we'll see if I can get that done over the next few days. We'll see about that. All right, thanks everyone. Bye bye now.